everybody, and welcome to the Sam and Ryan channel.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, my name is Sam.
My name is Ryan.
And today we are going to be answering questions that we have never answered before.
At least I don't think I have answered these questions before.
We put a classic little question box on both of our individual Instagrams.
And we've our first Q&A on here was just ask us questions. And then our second one was ask us your most burning questions. And now we're ask us something we've never answered. Our next one is going to be ask us the most illegal, sensitive info. Ask us what our social security numbers are. We're just trying to get
trying to get there.
Trying to get right to the edge. Anyway.
Shall we begin?
Yeah, I mean, what a nice, concise introduction we just did. We're getting good at this whole YouTube thing.
We are. We should keep it up.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Ash B, 0177, asked, I want to know both you and Sam's best high story.
I feel like this is going to be a letdown, but I don't really know that I have one. I have, what's the past tense of partake?
Partooketh?
I have partooketh in the recreational activity of legal marijuana. I honestly feel like it's never really done that much for me. Sometimes it's just made me feel really calm and that's good sometimes. But I don't know that I actually have a really good high story. I don't feel like I'm a very giggly or funny person when I'm high. And also I don't smoke a lot. I haven't smoked in a year and a half maybe.
Oh really? Wow. Yeah, I mean I don't smoke nearly as much anymore as I used to. And in fact, yeah, I haven't smoked in months or partooketh in any way, shape or form. Two, I think of my favorite high experiences involve Disneyland. One was miserable at the time. It was when I was an employee at Disneyland. The night before I had a shift, I went to a friend's going away party and he had bought all of these edibles. There was weed goldfish, weed gummies, weed Jolly Ranchers. Actually, the weed Jolly Rancher that I had that night was the night that my permanent retainer broke. So it was one of those things where people were just sort of passing them around and I was just sort of having a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But when it's edibles, before you know it, you've consumed hundreds of milligrams.
Wow.
But we were also drinking and I was also young. And so I didn't really notice it really, and then I just kind of fell asleep. But then when I woke up and had to go to work, I was out of this universe. It was literally one of those things where I was just at work on the couch. Everyone was are you okay? And I was just I'm tired, I didn't sleep well. And I would just be here all day, and then I would get up and I would go to the stage and I'd be at last I see the light. And then I would just come back. In retrospect, it's funny. At the time, it was horrifying.
I'm sure.
But I also just have a memory of it was Disney World, a press trip that I did when I was on Disney Channel. And after our work obligations were done, there was some partaking and just walking around Disney World with all of the, Disney Channel kings and queens of my day.
Who were
stoned
all
off
stoned.
No, I mean a lot of them were goody goodies. That's why we weren't really friends. But me and the cool ones were stoned and just going on those rides and just and we had guides and guards, and so it was a very once in a lifetime kind of experience.
Do you think the guides knew?
I don't care. We were baked.
That is such a good story. I don't have any stories like that. Jordan Melendez is asking, have you ever thought about quitting your job and not working at all? Yeah, but I don't think that it would be possible. As far as the not working at all, I'm not quite sure what you meant by that, because everybody has to work. I mean, unless you're saying if Ryan books a franchise, would I ever think about quitting and not working? Probably for a short period of time. I'd be all right, taking 3 months off.
Yeah, no, I mean, we both sort of have fantasies about being kept.
Yes.
If
Kept
Sam's career
spouses.
takes off and I just don't have to do anything,
Yeah,
that would be fun for a while, vice versa,
Yeah, exactly. Going in and out of the periods of that. But have I ever thought about quitting my job? Specifically, if we're talking about High Five Studios, no. I've daydreamed about the idea that either the Sam and Ryan channel or something else would become so big for me that I would kind of have to step away for a year or so. But like, I want to work here for a very long time. Like, I want to be a part of the things that are happening here. So I've never thought about quitting on like a serious level, but especially recently with the pandemic, we've both had conversations of like, with the income that we currently have, we could just like build a house in Oklahoma that would be like our dream home. Ryan could build like a studio to work in the backyard. We could build like a little YouTube studio. Like,
if we took what we spend on the cost of living in Los Angeles and applied it to a different life in like Montana, we could feasibly do that. I just don't think either of us really like want to right now. We live in LA.
exactly.
It's lit here.
We love living in LA. So did that answer the question?
Probably.
I think so.
Okay, my next one is from Emma Miller 13.
Okay.
Emma asks, what is the most outlandish thing a casting producer, probably casting director or producer, has said or done to you? So obviously I'm not gonna name names. When I first came out to LA, there was a opportunity that I was being very seriously considered for, and I had sort of a meeting with the head person. I mean, I guess, okay, so I do have to sort of give away in context of the story that it was a man. I went in and it was going really well. I could tell that I was, you know, being sort of like courted when the interview's going really well and you're like, I have this in the bag. It was one of those sort of things. I was definitely getting like flirtatious energy, which doesn't bother me. People flirt with me all the time. Boys, girls, I can't help it, baby. The meeting was over. I left. My manager called me the next day. I go to my manager's office. She sits me down and she was like, I have to have a really weird conversation with you. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I got an email from this person saying, if he's gay, I want him. If he isn't, I'm passing. And I was like, you tell him we're passing. And that was one of the first appointments I had in LA, and it taught me a very real lesson about how these things go. I think probably especially for women and probably gay men, but in general, like just, okay, wow, like sex is on the table, and like
wow,
that could have been a life-changing opportunity if I was just like, okay, tell him I'm gay and I'll just kind of, you know, like some people, the next guy on his list probably maybe was willing to do that, you know,
sure.
But it was like a
or
very
at least
like
say that he was,
right.
And then just fight that off.
See what happens, yeah. But it was a very sort of rude awakening.
Yeah, that's so unsettling.
Yeah. Good question though.
Yeah.
And like, you know, sad that that's my truthful answer, but you know, I think it's important to just continue to realize like, yeah, no, there are monstrous people in power, especially in the entertainment industry, but I think in all industries, and they need to be stopped.
My next question is one that I get a lot. Anytime transitional things happen at High Five Studios, especially with people, and then I do a prompt of like, ask me anything, ask me questions, I always get this. Someone is asking, what happened to CJ and Hannah? So those are some former employees at High Five Studios, people I deeply care about, and they no longer work at High Five Studios. Now, obviously, I'm not gonna say why. You know, you can still follow them, support them, see their journeys and where they go next.
As you should.
As you
do
should.
That. Yes.
Yeah, especially if you're a fan of those people, like keep up with them, see what they're doing. But yeah, so there were a few people who were let go from the studio, which was a really hard experience for me because I am now in a position where I had to be a part of a lot of those conversations, and I have never been a part of those conversations before. It was tough, especially when, you know, we are close in this work environment. But again, go support them, go follow them. Both CJ and Hannah specifically are very creative and talented people, so go keep up with them.
They'll be just fine, and you should be a part of that.
Yeah. Exactly.
All of mine are like pretty intense.
Yeah?
But
I mean, I say go for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Ari asks, have you ever morally disagreed with a role you had but played it anyway? I still struggle with JD and Heather's in general. I'm incredibly grateful for it. I think that at the time, frankly, even though it was only 6 years ago, we lived in a world where you just sort of did whatever you wanted to and you didn't really think about it. And I don't think that's better. I just think that's the way that it was. And so doing a show that thematically is very much about terrorism in schools, it was just sort of like, well, yeah, like that's part of it, but it's funny and it's all about the kitsch. So we just, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I talked about this on another video that we did. Like, we had a student talk back a day after the Santa Barbara shooting. And someone brought that up, and we were like given talking points about how like this isn't about terrorism in school, it's an anti-bullying message. But JD is a terrorist. Maybe it's very different on the West End, maybe it's very different in different cultures, but America specifically has a culture of terrorism in schools by damaged and inappropriately cared for, typically white boys. Like, it just feels a little close to home. And I don't know, there was a piece, like, it bothered me that we were doing it, and it bothered me even more that we had to ignore it. It seems to me that if you're just gonna do it anyway, you have to like
address it,
kind of lean into it, be like, yes, this is a commentary about what happens when you disregard these members of society, continuously push them to the fringe, and then give them free rein and recourse to just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You know, this is the tale of schools in America today. That could be a useful commentary, but when you dance around it and just make it about the costumes and the songs, I struggled with that.
I don't know that I have any additional points.
Well, then let's
next
move on to
question.
one of yours.
Okay.
Do you have a funny one?
So this is the last one for me.
Okay, I think I have one more.
Okay. It is interesting because some of these are a little bit more serious, but we didn't say they were going to be funny. We did just say we're answering questions we've never answered before. So here we are. My last question is, Robert is asking, when do you see yourself with children? Now, you already know where I'm going with this. I have talked about this before, but I wanted to bring up this question specifically because of how it was worded. When is a very important word in that sentence. That is the assumption that I will have children because I'm a woman. And now that is, I think for some people, a very natural conclusion to come to, but I just really want people to think an extra step. Like, just because a woman is a woman doesn't mean she has to have kids. Doesn't mean she has to want to have kids. I do not want children, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you are like, I want kids, like I love kids, I want to raise children into adults, and I want to raise functioning members of society, and I have the means to do that, and I have the heart for that, then beautiful. That is so amazing, and you are likely going to be a great parent because obviously you want to work for it. I think those are the only people who should have children. Like, I think if you were like, I'll probably have a kid, I don't think you should have a kid.
Or like, oh, well, I know my mom just really wants grandkids. Live your life for you. What do you think?
Live your life for you.
Opinions?
Exactly. And so that's just the point that I wanted to make here is like, no, like I don't want kids, and that's totally okay. And that doesn't mean I hate children. I actually really love children. I just do not want them for myself. So to answer your question of when do I see myself having children? Never.
It's so interesting that the societal expectation is that you will have kids. I think the societal expectation should be that you won't. Because every new child contributes to 10,000 metric tons in the atmosphere. Every new child is a $1 million down payment that most families cannot afford. And so then the well-being of that child and that child's desires as their life comes to fruition are either ignored or resented.
Yeah.
Like, having a child is a very serious thing, and it should be treated with that gravity. It should be a seriously considered and seriously weighed investment and choice that you make with your life, rather than just an expectation that like, okay, well, I'll go to college, I'll get the job, I'll find a husband, and then I'll have some kids. Like, just the way that it's like, I'll get up, I'll take a shower, I'll brush my teeth, I'll go to school. Like, no, kids are not part of the life routine. It's a very important choice, and having a child is a sacred duty and a sacred responsibility, and all of the parents out there, mazel tov, good for you, keep it going. But but oh my God, the fact that it's just expected.
Yeah.
Societally, on almost every level, like families and children, and this is just what naturally happens. Like, no. If you aren't absolutely certain that it's something that you should do, then you probably shouldn't because it's literally a life that's in your care.
Again, I do like kids. So if we're just talking about having kids, like, yeah, I want some of my friends to have kids and I'll go over and like babysit because I do like babysitting. I like hanging out with kids because I think they're funny. Like, but then I get to go home.
Yeah.
To my 3 Pomeranians and sexy husband.
Cutting that out.
Or I mean, wow. I'm saying in like the future. In the future.
If you are moving too fast for me.
No, we're not.
Whoa.
We're not moving anywhere.
That just came out of you. You didn't even think about that. That's so. Oh, you're such a Monica. Ooh, I'm sweating.
Okay, Chandler, calm down.
All right. My last question is, Maria asked, how do you, I'm just going to try to bulldoze past this. Maria asked, how do you make an age gap relationship work?
I think at the beginning, honestly, I feel like...
funny, it was a question for me, but go ahead.
Oh, I feel like the only time... I feel like the only time we've had to make it work was at the beginning, where we had to address, is this something that bothers us? We are 6 years apart, and a month. We had to address, is this something that bothers us? No. Okay. Are there any like cons here? We don't think so. I had to deal with some like, oh, he's 6 years older than you. And that was just something that I was like, yeah, and you know me, this is right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business. That's
Yeah.
a mantra that I just continuously repeat because I think it's really important. And what I'll own, because at the beginning of our relationship, so yeah, we're 6 years apart. 21, 27. But at the beginning of our relationship 3 years ago, she was 18 and I was 24.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're 24 and you say, you know, I'm seeing an 18-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
I'm, you know, sleeping with an 18-year-old, I'm, you know, like all of those implications, it seems predatorial.
Yeah,
Because
but, yeah.
it can be, and it has been in other circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, feeling like you constantly have to justify your relationship for other people's comfort, I think was the biggest barrier that I had to get over of
Yeah.
like, I know that this is right. And I know that I'm not a typical 24-year-old man. And I know that she is not a typical 18-year-old woman.
yeah.
And, you know, I know that the circumstances that brought us together are very specific. The conversations that we have constantly about the fact that me being 6 years older and in my mid-20s has me a bit more set in my ways, and you being 18 at the time, you know, and not even in your 20s yet, there's a lot of room ahead of you for you to grow into, and that if my presence in your life was ever putting a cap on that, that would be very detrimental, not only to our relationship, but to your, like, you know, development. I think, like with anything, honesty and communication is the way to sort of bridge any gap in anything. But I think too, especially for me, like learning to not be bothered by people's eyebrows going up when I say she's 18, whether they're judging her or judging me or whatever. It's like, okay, I mean, judge all you want to. Like, this is a relationship that really works. And I could be with a woman who's 25 just because she's 25, and it could not work for so many reasons that have nothing to do with our age. If this does work for reasons that have nothing to do with our age, maybe age has nothing to do with it in the first place. If your relationship works, it works. And if your relationship doesn't, it doesn't. And many factors play into both of those things, but it is sort of that simple sometimes.
I will say I never, ever got the like, oh, that's like kind of a bad age difference thing until people on the internet were like, wait, she's 18 and he's 24. So people that don't know anything about either of our lives or our relationship. And so I did...
I'm not talking about those people. I never had to explain myself to them. It was people in my life, actual people who did know me, who were sort of like, yeah, but she's 18 though.
But yeah, I mean, and I think also our experience with those people, and something that you often communicated to me, was that at the end of the day, you would just be like, when you meet her, it will make sense.
And that proved effective 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like a couple specific examples of people who really had their reservations, and I was just sort of like, can you just meet her? And people were like, not only do I get her, but I get you guys.
Yeah.
Anyone who had their doubts, if they know us now, they're sort of like, wow, I was wrong about that.
Yeah. I mean, here we are 3.5 years later.
Threatening marriage.
Thank you so much to everybody who sent in your questions. If you guys want to see a similar video to this style, maybe like assumptions about us, and we'll let you know if they're true or false, anything in this kind of Q&A realm, let us know. Comment down below what you guys want to see in these Wednesday videos. Wednesday. As always, be sure to like and subscribe
to our YouTube channel.
YouTube, and we will see you guys on Friday. Bye.
Bye, Daddy.
Bye, Daddy.